The floor of the lobby was paved with some kind of stone, and Maria felt cold under her feet. She flexed her fingers and looked around at the people crowding and queuing at the front desk. More precisely, she looked at the men. Was he here? Was he one of these men? Her breathing quickened, and she forced herself to slow down and take a closer look at each face. No, he wasn't here. She crossed the lobby and headed to the lounge. At least there was carpet, but after the bright and busy lobby, it was dark. She glanced around the bar, but still didn't see him. "Anything for you, honey?" The bartender was a woman of about 40, dressed in black, with a slightly bored expression, Maria thought. A glass of Chardonnay." The bartender nodded, took out a glass, and pulled out a bottle from the refrigerator. Maria couldn't wait to go around the bar and continue looking for him. My toes curled again. The bartender placed the glass in front of her. $9, she said politely, but still bored. Maria reached for her purse, but realized that she didn't have it with her. Moreover, she was completely naked. She felt the blood rush to her face. How could she walk around this luxurious hotel among all these people, naked? And how do you explain your situation to the bartender? The woman looked at her expectantly. Maria opened her mouth, but could not say anything. And then she felt a warm hand. "Can I help?" It was him. She looked for him everywhere. He smiled and handed the bartender a few bills. "I have a booth," he whispered to Maria, although she did not understand why he was whispering. She took the glass. "This way," he whispered again. His hand on her back was starting to get warm, and she knew she was blushing all over. He leaned over and kissed her. "Let's go," he said insistently. And suddenly, without any transition, they found themselves in a booth and having sex. And then she woke up, lying in her bed next to her husband. Her body was covered in sweat, and she was still shaking. She felt empty. A damp strand of hair stuck to her forehead, and she brushed it aside. She looked at Louie. He lay, as usual at night, flat on his back. His breathing made faint whistling sounds. The cat, Roger, sat on his chest, and in the dim light Maria saw how he looked at her blankly. She glanced at her watch. Almost 4:30. Too early to get up, but too late for her to know she could go back to sleep. She carefully got out from under the sheets and quietly headed to the bathroom. When she returned, the cat was gone, and she heard methodical metal scraping in the kitchen. It was him pushing his bowl, licking crumbs from dinner. Louie was already awake, watching her return to bed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I tried not to wake you." He laughed quietly. "Roger woke me up," he said. "Suddenly, I remembered about my bowl, and the next moment I was already being scratched by claws, and then he disappeared." He moved closer to her and hugged her. "Are you okay?" Maria hesitated. "Dream again?" he asked softly. She sighed. "Yes," she said. "Tell me," he asked. "Same thing," she said. "Sex with some stranger. This time at a bar." He didn't say anything, just took her hand. "You know that I'm not against sex," she suddenly blurted out, or something like that. "I know," he muttered. "I love sex," she insisted. He kissed her shoulder. "I even liked having erotic dreams before. But this is already too much." She turned to face him. "I have these dreams every night." "I know," he said. "I keep thinking maybe there's something wrong with me." No, Louis said. "Or maybe with us." "What do you mean?" "I don't even know," she said sadly. "Maybe my body is saying, 'Hey Maria, you need more sex. If you want to try, I'm always ready.'" His teeth flashed in the darkness. She didn't say anything for a while. "The point is," she said, "I really like these dreams. When they dream." "Certainly." He laughed quietly. "Sounds like fantasy. Doesn't it bother you that they're not about us? About you?" She felt a movement, probably a shrug. "These are just dreams," he said. "When you wake up, you are still with me." He hesitated. "And yet?" "And yet what?" He leaned forward and kissed her. "Still," he said, "this is also nice for me. When you have these dreams." "Tell me about him," Louis said. "About that person who comes to your bed every night. It's always the same person, isn't it?" Maria swallowed. Yes, she answered quietly. He enjoys having sex with you, Louis whispered. I can imagine you being with him, he said hoarsely. They made love. This was breakfast the next morning. Louis looked up from his phone and smiled at her. What's happened? He asked. Maria clutched her coffee mug, staring into it. Then she looked up. It's about last night, she said. About my dreams. Louis's smile widened. Yes, he asked. I wasn't entirely honest about the dreams, Maria admitted. In what sense? I said it was a stranger, said Maria. I said I didn't know who he was. The man in my dreams. Oh, Louis said. He fell silent, and it wasn't true? Maria reached across the table and took his hand. This is the guy from work, she said. So, these are just dreams, you know. But this is not a stranger. Louis nodded. Do you have a crush on him? Probably, said Maria. She hesitated. Yes, that's probably true. Louis patted her hand. Everyone has crushes, he said. This is not a crime. I've never been in love so much that it brought me sexual dreams every night, said Maria. It's more of a bonus, Louis said. For both of us. He chuckled quietly. But Louis, Maria paused. This is a guy named Warren. Warren? Yes, said Maria. And the thing is, remember that supplier conference I'm going to next week in Vegas? Yeah, Louis said. I told you about her, Maria said patiently. Next week, from Tuesday to Thursday. I'm leaving on Tuesday morning. I think it's the 30th. Oh, right, Louis said. Right. He looked at her. What's wrong with her? Maria hesitated. Warren is coming too, she said. Oh, said Louis. Yes, said Maria. Who else is coming? Oh, said Maria. There will be a lot of people there. Maybe a couple hundred, many companies. But from your company? Maria did not answer for several seconds. She looked down at her coffee mug and then looked up again to meet his gaze. He couldn't understand her expression. There was something on her face that looked like concern, but also excitement and perhaps challenge. Just us, she finally said. Just me and Warren. When Maria returned home that evening, Louis was gone. Thursday was basketball night. She called out to him to make sure and then entered the house with a shopping bag. She placed it on the table and looked at it with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. What has she done? Nothing, she told herself. All she did was buy sexy lingerie. This is a completely normal thing. She swallowed and then walked into the bedroom with an apologetic smile. She lowered the blinds and then, with slightly trembling fingers, unbuttoned her dress. She took it off, then her underwear, and stood in front of the mirror, naked. The package lay on the bed, its delicate contents separated by layers of tissue paper. Maria took a deep breath and took them out. She had already tried them on in the store, but this was different. There was no fuss, no background music or noise, and she was naked exactly as it would be. How could it be? Of course, it was just a fantasy. But why was Louis fantasizing about the conference as an opportunity for her too? Well, be with another man. Did he know about the seminar? But no, when she told him about it over breakfast, about Warren and the seminar, he was surprised. Shocked? She didn't know. It was a fantasy, both for him and for her. Isn't that right? She took out the first item, a lilac bodysuit, and stepped into it, pulling it over her shoulders. She loved the way it accentuated her breasts and the way her stomach, flat and toned after all her efforts, showed through the lace. She ran her hands over the smooth fabric. It would be fun to wear it for Louis, talk dirty to him. She smiled, then brushed her hair back and put her hands on her hips. She felt so sexy, so strong. What else was in the package? She slipped out of the bodysuit and carefully placed it on the bed. Red robe. Lace edges, transparent body, almost everything is visible. It came with panties, but she left them in the bag. Oh, Warren, she imagined herself saying, and then shivered. It's just a fantasy, she told herself sternly. She closed her eyes. The problem with dreams is that they disappear when you wake up. But sometimes you can bring back some sensations. She tried to remember the man in the bar from her dream last night. She knew it was Warren, but honestly, she didn't know how she knew it, and she still couldn't bring on that craziness again. Her phone vibrated. She sighed and reached out to him. It was Louie. "Hello," she said easily. "Hello," he replied. "Have you finished playing yet?" "No," he said. "Break." "Oh," she said. "I hoped you would come home soon and play with me instead." "That would be nice." "You know, I've been thinking about you all day," he said. "Last night. Lord. You should come back soon," Maria said. "Can't you pretend you sprained your ankle or something?" Louis laughed, but she wasn't joking. She really wanted him to come home so they could have sex. "I'll be there soon," he promised. "What if I can't wait?" she asked him. "Just leave it for me," he asked her. "I'm not sure I can," she said. "Go play with the boys, and I'll find something to do." "Maria," Louis began. "See you soon," she said sweetly and hung up. It was a beautiful robe, and it made her feel sexy. "When Warren comes home," oops, she giggled. "When Louis comes home, they can have fun." She smiled. She took her phone and took a photo in the mirror, just her body, without her face. Then she sent it to Louis with the signature. "Sorry, dear, I couldn't wait. I started without you." Louis rushed home as soon as he received the text, but it was almost an hour later when the basketball game ended, and he took a shower. By then, Maria was already dressed and sitting at the kitchen table, eating cheese, crackers, and olives, and drinking red wine. "Sorry," he said, smiling broadly at her and sitting down on the chair next to her. "Looks like I missed the fun." "Well," said Maria, "I know how important your basketball is to you." "Ha, if I had seen your message." "Have you not seen it?" "No, I only received it about 15 minutes ago." "Well," said Maria, "this makes me happy. I was already starting to think that you like throwing the ball more than, well, other things." Louis sat down next to her and pulled up a chair. "Other things," he said. "Looks like this is what I want now." "I'm having dinner," said Maria. In response, Louis leaned down and kissed her. "Your dinner can wait," Louis muttered. "Let's go upstairs," Maria whispered. "This is a photo," Louis said. "God." Maria smiled and stood up. "Let's go, Tiger," she said. "Let's go upstairs." It was late. Louis couldn't sleep, which didn't happen to him often. He thought that maybe he was too hot and pushed Roger off his chest. But even when the cat went away, crawling into the blanket at the foot of the bed, sleep still did not come. He looked at Maria, curled up on her side with her head resting on one of her arms. He wanted to see her face more clearly, but the light from the street was not bright enough. And even if he could, what would it do? Could he understand what was going on inside her? Could he, just by listening to her breathing and observing the changes on her face, tell whether she was sleeping or not? And if he sleeps, what does he see in his dreams? It's so strange to think that here, in bed with him, she could be somewhere far away in her own world with another man. Louis swallowed. Will it be noticeable on her face if she is now actually having sex in her sleep, if she is experiencing pleasure? Louis rolled over and glanced at the time on his phone. Ugh, tomorrow will be a hard day. He reached for his phone, opened his messages, and looked at photos of Maria's naked body. He spread his fingers, zooming in and moving the image. And now he noticed it more carefully. She was wearing a different robe, not the one she usually wears. He heard a faint sound and turned to see Maria awake and looking at him. "Do you always look at photos of naked women when there is a naked woman lying next to you?" she asked with a slight laugh in her voice. Louis smiled, confused. "Sometimes I can't help myself," he admitted. "It's okay," said Maria. "For now, it's me in the photo and next to me." Louis moved closer to her and leaned closer. "Who else could it be?" he asked softly. His face leaned towards hers, and he kissed her. "I don't know," said Maria. She raised her arms and wrapped them around his neck. "There are so many naked women on the internet. Is it true?" He kissed her again. "I somehow didn't notice. I seemed to only be focused on one thing." Maria sighed. "I'm glad you liked the photo," she whispered. "Was it a surprise?" "It was amazing," said Louis. "What made you send it?" "Oh," she said. "I did some shopping. Did you notice? New robe?" "Yes." Do you like it? Very. He kissed her again. Do you want to show it to me? Live, you mean? Yes. I was thinking about saving it for my trip, she said. New sexy lingerie. Louis' hand froze. For a trip? Yes, said Maria. To the conference. Sexy lingerie? Louis asked. His thoughts moved slowly. Yes, said Maria, if you don't mind. Against. Yes. Do you mind? He looked into her eyes. I think not. If you, I mean, she continued, we'll be so far apart. It's true, Louis muttered. I think it will be fun, Maria said. Isn't it? Funny? Sexy video calls, Maria said, in new underwear. Oh, Louis agreed. Right. What did you think? Asked Maria. Louis froze. Did you think I was going to wear sexy lingerie and seduce Warren? Tell the truth, she urged. That's exactly what you thought. Louis didn't answer. And, Maria continued, you said you didn't mind. I didn't say so, Louis objected. Oh yes, he did, Maria insisted. When I asked if this was normal, you said, I think so. But you talked about sex video calls. Yes, dear, said Maria, but you thought about me wearing sexy lingerie for another man. You did it, and presumably, I'll sleep with him. I meant it as a fantasy, Louis objected. Just like a fantasy. Oh, good, said Maria. She leaned over and kissed him. You like this fantasy, don't you? Is it true? She repeated. I think so, Louis agreed. Said Maria. I want you, Louis whispered. Tell me, said Maria. Tell me how he should do it. Louis's hips moved without any input from his mind. He pushed his penis into her hand, feeling her warm body on him. I'm not sure, Louis said. Just like a fantasy, Maria insisted. Tell me how he should do it. Oh my God, Louis said. Maybe I'm in too much of a hurry. Maybe we can start in a taxi. How do you like this idea? Yes, Louis said hoarsely. We're going to my room, she said. Let's hold hands. We kissed in the elevator. Maria paused. I have a question. Should I wear the robe from the photo or the bodysuit I bought? What is a bodysuit? Louis asked. Something like overalls, she answered. But sexual. Lace. Robe, Louis said. Okay, Maria smiled and leaned over to kiss him. So while he makes us drinks, I go into the bedroom and put on my robe. I don't have time to call you, sorry honey, I just have to. You know what, I'll text you. Would you like this? Do you want me to send you a message? Yes. Photo. Only you, Louis said. Not him. Only me, Maria agreed. Just me in a robe. Open like the photo I sent you today. Yes, said Louis. Okay, I'll send you a message, Maria said. Warren is already here. He's waiting in the other room. And I can't wait. Maria and Louis made love. Maria's hand seemed small and warm in his. Louis stopped at the curb between two SUVs and turned to her. Cars rushed past, as usual at the airport. People stood on the sidewalk, craning their necks and trying to see their cars in the flow of passing traffic. Louis tried not to pay attention to it and leaned towards Maria. I will miss you very much, he whispered. His lips touched hers. Very, he repeated. Her hand came up and touched his cheek, stroking him. I know, she whispered. Me too. Maria pulled back and looked at him. I'm sorry, she said softly. I need to catch a flight. Louis nodded. That's why we're at the airport, he said with a wry smile. Exactly, she said, touching her fingertips to her lips and then to his. I'll call you tonight, she said. It will be nice, Louis said. Maria nodded and opened the door, stepping out onto the sidewalk. Louis came out the other side and opened the trunk to take out her suitcase. She pulled out the handle and straightened up. One more kiss, Louis said. His arms wrapped around her and she pressed herself against him. I love you, he whispered. Me too, said Maria. She then carefully pulled herself out of his arms and he let her go. She smiled and took the handle of her suitcase. She began to walk away, the wheels of her suitcase clattering on the sidewalk. Then she turned around and looked at Louis. She blew him a kiss and he smiled again. Then the automatic doors slid open and she disappeared. Louis sighed, walked around the car, and sat down. Clicking his seat belt, he started the engine and joined the traffic. In the rearview mirror, he caught a glimpse of the terminal door closing behind her. Louis didn't receive a call until 9:30 p.m. He quickly recalculated time zones. It was now 6:30 in Vegas. He picked up the phone. "Hello," he said. "There you are." "Yes," she answered. "Here I am. What a day. Just crazy. What time did you arrive?" Like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that." Louis fell silent. Her voice sounded strange. "Are you alone?" he asked carefully. "What?" "Yes," she answered, perhaps too sharply. "Why?" "I don't know," Louis said. "You just sound. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the connection." "It's okay," said Maria. "I told you, the day is just crazy." She fell silent. "Even on a plane," she added. "What happened on the flight?" "Oh, just fuss. I was transferring to Chicago, and Warren joined me there, his headquarters in that city." "Warren?" Louis asked. "Understood. We still had work to do," she said. "Preparation for the seminar, so it's good that he was on board." "Were you sitting next to each other?" Louis asked. "Yes," she answered. "He made an agreement with the boarding agent." "I see," Louis said. Maria laughed. "Are you jealous?" she asked. "Crazy," Louis admitted. "I mean, what's sexier than discussing tables at 30,000 feet?" He paused. "But I shouldn't be jealous, right?" "Of course not," she answered quickly. "Too fast?" Louis fell silent again. "Is it about 6:30 now?" he asked. "Yes," answered Maria. "I'm meeting my colleagues at 7 and we'll go to dinner." "Colleagues, people who came from other cities," Maria explained. "The locals will show us where to go. Dinner, and then, if I can stay awake, we're going to go dancing." "Should I dance?" "One of the local girls simply loves this club, but I'll most likely collapse from fatigue before then." Louis clicked his tongue. "You should adjust to local time," he said. "You didn't sleep on the plane?" After a pause, Maria replied. "Actually, I was sleeping. I managed to sleep for about an hour." "Any interesting dreams?" Louis asked. Maria didn't answer. Louis was waiting. "Maria?" he called again. "Yes, just ordinary," she said finally. "Sex with a stranger?" Or, he corrected himself, "with Warren." Maria sighed. "I shouldn't have told you this," she said. "No," Louis objected. "It's good that you told me. We're in this together. I'm not worried, really. After all, if you're going to have sex with a coworker, it's better to do it in a dream than in reality." "Ha," Maria grinned. "Tell me about the dream," Louis asked. "Everything is as usual," Maria answered. "Ordinary?" Louis asked. "Do you really want to hear this?" "Absolutely," Louis said confidently. "You need to tell me." Maria sighed. "It was some kind of pool," she said, "but not in the water. At night, under the moon, I lay on a sun lounger, looking at the stars. I was waiting. I was waiting for him." Louis said. "And then there was this soft splash," Maria said, "and he came out of the pool, his body shining in the moonlight." She fell silent. "Then we made love." Louis stirred. "Just like that." "What do you mean?" "I mean, did he kiss you?" Pause. "Yes," said Maria. "And it was Warren?" "I think so," she said. "Yes, I'm almost sure." "What happened next?" Maria told her dream in detail. Louis considered this. "Damn," he said finally. "As soon as I turned my back for a minute, you're already having sex with a coworker by the pool in Sin City." Maria laughed nervously. "I know," she said, "but I did it even when I was home in bed with you." "That's true," Louis agreed. "What happened when you woke up and found Warren next to you? Fully dressed, I guess." "Oh, he wasn't there. And that was good, because I was extremely sleepy and disoriented when I woke up." "Where was he?" "I saw him when I got up to go to the bathroom. He was talking to one of the flight attendants." "Yeah," Louis said. "Who's jealous now?" "I?" asked Maria. "I'm a happily married woman, remember?" That's what you say, Louie said. But in the meantime. Oh, honey, Maria said. Don't be stupid. Louie laughed. Go have dinner, he said. Call me when you get back if it's not too late and we can play sexy phone games. Said Maria. It can be fun. Let's see how late it will be and how tired I will be. She fell silent. Louie? It was in her voice again. What? He asked. Something strange happened. What's happened? You'll think that I made it all up or that I've gone crazy. What's happened? This dream where I made love to someone. With Warren, Louie corrected her. Yes, said Maria. At the bar? Hotel bar. Yes. This is the bar of this hotel, the one where I stayed. It's the exact same bar. Even the barmaid is the same attired, bored woman with short, dirty brown hair. She fell silent. Crazy, huh? Louis hesitated. This is probably the feeling that everyone talks about, you know? Déjà vu. When you see something and think you've seen it before. Maybe, said Maria. Yes, most likely it is. But I felt very strange when I saw it. Just don't get inspired and start looking for a stranger to have sex with, Louis said. Ha, said Maria. No, I'm telling you, it was more of a scary, creepy feeling than an exciting one. Yes, said Louis. Maria sighed. But don't you think I'm too crazy? She asked. No, Louis told her. Moderately crazy. I don't really want to go out to dinner, Maria said. I'm exhausted. Tell them you can't, Louis advised her. Order a burger to your room, and we can watch adult videos together and talk dirty. Maria laughed. I don't need to watch the video, she said. All I have to do is close my eyes. That's true, Louis agreed. Anyway, interacting with all these people is part of what I have to do here, Maria said. Shall we save the dirty talk for later? Of course, Louis told her. He paused. Good night, he said quietly. Love you. I love you too, Maria told him. Good night. Louis didn't sleep well. He never slept well when Maria was away, especially on the first night. He kept waking up and looking at the clock by his bed. 1:33, 3:17, then again at 4:19. At 5:41, the cat started screaming in the hallway for no reason and Louis groaned. He got out of bed and went to the bathroom, leaning against the wall as he stood and peed. How come Maria had sex dreams over and over again, and he had to deal with the DMV, or his boss, in the dream? He washed it off, then rinsed his hands and looked at himself in the mirror. So Warren was muscular, right? What else was in it? Louis returned to bed and called the cat. He ran into the room and jumped on the bed, purring like crazy. Did you think I was dead? Louis asked him. He stroked the small fluffy head, and the cat snuggled up to his hand. Louis leaned back against the pillows. Okay, buddy, let's calm down and I'll try to get another hour of sleep before I have to start the day. He tapped the cat on the head with his index finger. Agreed? He sighed and closed his eyes. Another hour would have been nice. Clear your brain, don't think about anything. Count your breaths. Inhale and exhale. 1, inhale and exhale. 2, and inhale. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Louis moaned again and reached for it. Maria, what time is it there now? God. Hello, he said. Maria? I'm sorry I'm calling so late, she said, but I wanted to hear your voice. It's okay, Louis said. I'm glad you called. And it's not late here, but early. I guess it's true, she said. Louis waited, but she didn't say anything else. How was dinner and everything else? He asked. It was... She trailed off. It was good. Very good. Louis waited again. Maria began, but stopped again. Oh, Louis, she said. What's happened? I kissed Warren, she blurted out. Oh, Louis said. Sorry, she said, for kissing him. Yes. Louis paused. A kiss is just a kiss, he said. Yes, Maria said hesitantly. Louis waited again. Okay, said Maria. This is what happened. We all went dancing after dinner. All? Several people, she said. Including Warren? Yes, including Warren, she said. Let me just tell you, okay? Okay, Louie said. It was fun, great night, great DJ, and Warren the whole time. He gave me attention. I didn't do it the way I usually did. To him. It was nice, but also scary, you know. I liked it. I liked that he, well, looked at me, talked to me, listened. I wanted him to continue. I wanted him to, well, continue. I'm not putting it very well. I understand, Louis said dryly. Yes, that's right, said Maria. So at some point it gets really late. We all take a taxi and go back to the hotel or wherever, and then I find myself in the elevator with Warren. Just the two of us. She took a deep breath. And I think, oh my God, what's next? And then he asks me if I saw the roof garden. She laughed. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and he wants to go up to the roof. He says it's beautiful there. You can see the city lights and the moon. So we go up. On the roof. Yeah, Louis said again. And he was right. It's really beautiful there. But here's what's strange. It's like in my dream from the plane. What? With a swimming pool and sun loungers. Only this is not a swimming pool, but a reflection pond. But everything else is the same, and I feel it's the same. Oh my God, Louis said. This is creepy. Is it true? In any case, we look around, and I force myself not to sit down, not to lie down on one of the sun loungers, although you won't like it, but I really, really wanted to. Louis was silent for a while. Go on, he said hoarsely. And then he hugged me, she said. I turned around, and he kissed me, and I kissed him. Maria, I know, it sounds terrible when I say it, but I felt like I was flying away, and I'm melting at the same time. There was a long pause. What then? Louis asked. Maria sighed. I was scared, she said. I backed down, told him I was married, and said, happily married. It was wrong. She sighed again. I stepped away from him and returned to the elevator. He didn't go into the elevator with me. He let me leave alone. There was another long pause. Wow, Louis finally said. I know, said Maria. It almost happened. How long do you have to be there in Los Angeles? 2 nights, said Maria. Today, which is almost over, and one more. I see, Louis said. Listen, said Maria. Why am I telling all this? It's a terrible thing to ask, but let's say I would get lost. Lost? Well, you understand, she sighed. I forgot that I am a happily married woman, just for one night. Oh, Louis said. I couldn't love you any less, she said quickly. You know that. It's just this stupid flirting and these stupid dreams. I think if I could just get rid of it and go back to a normal life. What if you can't? What, I can't? Get rid of it. There was another pause. It's a risk, Maria admitted. What if? What the hell are we even talking about? Are you going to take time off from your marriage to sleep with this guy? You liked it when I talked about it, Maria said quietly. Before, I mean. What? Oh my God, it was a fantasy. This is completely different. I know, said Maria. You want me to say, well, go ahead and sleep with him? Well, come on. I don't own you. You decide for yourself. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. You're kidding. Of course I'm angry. Listen, said Maria. I could have stayed on the roof with him, and you would never have known. I could be in his room right now. But I'm not there. I'm talking to you. Louis paused. It's true, he admitted. But damn it, Maria. Louis, said Maria, I love you, very much. But this, I'm going crazy about this. I need to do something about this. Don't you read the advice of psychologists? They always say you should channel that energy into your husband. I know, she said, and I did that. Is it true? Louis laughed, but not with much amusement. Yes, he said, that's what you did. It was wonderful, Maria said. Well, I mean the part with you. But it's not. I mean, this advice is complete crap. The thing is, no matter how hard I try with you, it's not enough. Not enough, he repeated. Sorry, she said. I don't want to hurt you, I really don't, but I really need this. Louie exhaled through his teeth with a hiss. What if I said that I wanted to sleep with some beauty? He asked. It's only fair, right? I don't know, said Maria. I don't know. I'm not trying to start a game. I don't want us to play these games. If this had not happened. So let's say you do this, Louis said impatiently. You're going to spend a night or two having crazy sex with this guy, and then you're going to come home and, what? Will you continue to meet him in the evenings while I stay at home and watch adult videos? No, no, said Maria. I would tell him this is a one-time thing. Anyway, like I said, he lives in Chicago. As far as I know, Louis said dryly, there are plenty of flights between us and Chicago. Louis, she said, I'm not trying to have an affair. Maybe you're not trying, Louis said, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. I think I can control my actions, Maria said. You just said it's driving you crazy, Louis said. Do you really think sleeping with him will make things easier? Maria hesitated. Yes, she finally said. I think it will. Louis sighed. Listen, I already told you. I don't own you and you don't own me. If you're risking our relationship. Damn, how can I stop you? You're in damn Nevada and I'm 2,000 miles away. True, she said, but if I do this, maybe it will destroy us. Will you sleep with him? Louis could hear Maria breathing on the other end of the phone. Yes, she finally said. Oh God, will you leave me if I do this? I don't know, Louis said. I don't know how I'll feel. How should I know? I wouldn't be thrilled with this idea, but he fell silent. Sorry, Maria said. She sounded desperate. I'm so sorry, but I don't feel like it's my fault. It's like one of those Greek plays where someone angers the gods and they shoot an arrow at you and you can't control yourself anymore. There was a long pause. Do I need to make a decision now? Louis asked. This is an important question. Another pause that seemed like an eternity. I don't know, Maria finally said. Louis made an impatient sound. If I said yes, were you going to go straight to his room? She sighed. No, she said. I'm terribly tired. I need to sleep. Okay, he said, and I need to get up and do things. I love you, Maria suddenly blurted out. I love you very much. Oh, Louis said, I know, and I love you too. He hesitated, then broke off the connection and remained lying in bed, thinking. Roger purred happily next to him, and Louis reached out to scratch his cheek. He was never jealous, never spent time wondering where Maria was or what she was doing when she went out with friends or was late at work. They loved each other. She loved him. He knew it. So what now? He closed his eyes, replaying their conversation over and over in his head. She was on the roof, pond with reflection. Chaise long. Did she go to bed with him? Or did they just stand there kissing? What did she say? She was melting, he remembered. I'm flying away. It was certainly strange how places from her dreams kept appearing in real life. Bar, roof garden, and swimming pool. Although it was the swimming pool in her dream, he was sure of this because the man was coming out of the pool and walking towards her, his body wet and shining in the moonlight. Where she was lying, her body also shone in the moonlight, tense in anticipation. Louis opened his eyes, breathing heavily. God, he thought. It was confusing. Did he make love to Maria, or was he just an observer watching her with another man? It felt like both. And the truth is what she said. These fantasies of her giving herself to another man were incredibly exciting. But these were fantasies, just a different way of thinking about being with her rather than wanting her to actually sleep with someone else. Roger has already run away. He went to the bathroom and turned on the shower. All morning this thought sat in Louie, like undigested food. The idea that Mary, wants to give herself, wants to share her body with someone else. With Warren, whoever he is. She wanted it so bad that she called him to see what he thought about it, or to say that she is going to do it. At some point, he almost convinced himself that it was just another dream, but when he checked his phone, he saw an incoming call recently. He was sitting at his desk with the door closed, a sandwich in front of him on a plate next to his keyboard. He took the sandwich and bit off a corner. The bread seemed dry and crumbly, and the smell of cheese was unbearable. He never ordered cheese on his sandwiches. What was he thinking? Well, no. It was obvious what he was thinking. He put the sandwich back on the plate. He opened his personal email and stared at the screen for a moment, then, almost reluctantly, clicked the Compose button. He started typing Maria's name, and the autocomplete system filled in her address. He took a deep breath and started typing. My dear, I'm still in shock thinking about our conversation last night, or rather, this morning, when you asked me how I would feel if you, as you put it, went astray. I think you already realized that I would feel bad. I would feel sad and lonely. I love you so much. I love what we do together. I love that it's just our stuff. How can I separate this? How can you ask me for this? But you asked. You didn't just go to his room. Louis paused and picked up a sandwich. He opened it and took out the pieces of cheese, throwing them in the trash, then put the sandwich back together. He took a bite and then put it back on the plate. He picked up his cup of coffee and took a sip. Okay, he thought, that was the easy part. He started typing again. I think about this all day, about how we love each other, about how we support each other, that if one of us really needs something, the other never refuses. And I have to believe that you wouldn't call me, wouldn't talk about it if you didn't need it. I heard the pain in your voice last night. If some god somewhere decided that they needed you to go astray, then I would not be the one to say, but you promised. We are a team, not two opponents in some stupid game. We're in this together, and if part of what you have to do involves hurting me, then when you're on a team, sometimes you have to sacrifice what you want for it. I'm not sure if this is exactly the case, but only you know. I love you very much. Whatever you decide. And Louis read what he had written. It turned out well. It's even better in a letter than in SMS or by phone. He was used to composing letters because that's what he did every day. And he knew that it was easier to scroll through SMS on the phone, and the last thing he wanted was for someone to accidentally see one of Maria's messages. He stared at the screen, reading the letter over and over again. God, the words are so pathetic. He took the mouse and moved it to the send button. 3, 2, 1. Click, and the message disappeared from the screen. Ready. Louis took a deep breath. He just sent his wife a letter giving her permission to sleep with another man. He used the word support to describe his attitude. What will Maria think? He closed the window with the letter and looked thoughtfully at the screen. He wanted Maria to call, wanted to talk to her. And then, as if on cue, the phone rang. It was Maria. He picked up the phone. Hello? Maria's voice, but somehow muffled and calm. She hesitated. It's me. Louis's heart sank. Are you okay? He asked. I think so, she said. Another pause. I received your letter, she added. Oh, Louis said. What do you think? I think this is nonsense, Maria said evenly. Louis blinked. Nonsense, he asked again. Yes, said Maria. Typical male nonsense. We are a team. Victims. Everything like that. It's like you don't care if I cheat on you or not, as long as we win whatever game we're playing. Of course I care, Louis said. He was confused. I tried to say that I support you, I try. I think, said Maria, that deep down you really want me to do this, so I can sleep with Warren. Louis laughed. Want you to do this? He asked. Why would I want this? Because it turns you on. You find it exciting, Maria said, at least when you think about it. Louis didn't answer at first. I told you so, he said in a low voice. These are fantasies. This is different. He stole a glance at the door to make sure it was still closed. Maria did not answer immediately. You know, she said, I regret calling you last night. What do you mean? I mean, she said, I wish I had just gone to his room. Louis froze. Mary, he began, but didn't know what to say next. I know, she said. That would be too much, wouldn't it? But I really wanted it. Louis didn't answer. He moved the phone to his other ear. Maria sighed. I dreamed again, she said. Just now, before I woke up. Louis swallowed. Maria, he whispered with excitement. I'm at work. He was different, she said, as if she hadn't heard him. I was in a hotel room, like the one I'm in now. Like all the rooms in this hotel, probably. Louis waited a moment. What happened? He asked. I was lying in bed, naked of course, and she waited. I heard him in the living room, I heard him move, I heard him take off his clothes, a zipper, a belt buckle. Then I heard the lights go off and then the blanket moved and he was in bed with me. Damn, Louis said. Maria, he called. Yes, she whispered. Can you call me after work so we can do this together? Maria was silent for a moment. I might be busy, she replied slowly. Louis didn't answer right away. What do you think? She asked. I guess it's up to you, Louis said quietly. I think it concerns both of us, Maria replied. Louis swallowed. Yes, that's true. But still, the decision is yours, he repeated. Maria did not answer immediately. Okay, she finally said. I'll think about it. Wait, Louis said. What? Listen, he began. This is completely up to you, okay? It's clear. He swallowed again and moved the phone to his other ear. But I'm not sure. What are you unsure about? I'm super horny, Louis suddenly blurted out. I'm not thinking clearly. Maria purred softly. I think I want you to do this. There was a long pause. Yes, Maria finally said. I thought you wanted this. Louis's heart was beating wildly. I can't wait to see you, he whispered. I know, Maria answered. Me too. Tomorrow evening. These fantasies, they're just the best. Yes, that's true, Maria agreed. And maybe, in reality everything will be not so exciting. Maria laughed. What's so funny? Louis demanded an answer. So it's completely up to me? She asked. Yes, he confirmed. Okay, said Maria. There was a pause again. What are you going to do? Louis asked. I'll go take a shower, Maria said. I already missed the first session in the morning. Then I'll grab some coffee and eat something. This is not. And then I'll think about what I want, Maria interrupted him. She fell silent again. I'll keep you posted, okay? Louis nodded, although she couldn't see him. Okay, he breathed. I love you, said Maria. And I you, Louis replied. And then the connection was lost. For the rest of the day, Louis sat at his desk, deep in thought. He looked at the clock on the computer screen, but his thoughts took him away again. He couldn't get Maria's dreams, her fantasies, or whatever it was out of his head. This scene replayed in his head over and over again, like an internet video on repeat. He was sure that Maria was going to do this. She was going to make her dreams come true. God, she's so hot. Louis leaned forward and pressed himself against the table again. But what will this mean for their relationship? At 6 in the evening, he returned home and fed the cat. What to do now? She said she would keep him posted. What does this even mean? God, it was unbearable to wait. There was a game in the evening. It was supposed to help pass the time. Boston Bruins versus Toronto Maple Leafs. Louis went for a run, then took a shower, ordered pizza, and settled down in front of the TV with a beer. But even the game did not save me from the painful anticipation. He turned off the TV halfway through the game and stood up. It's not even dinner time in Las Vegas yet. Finally, his phone buzzed. Louis grabbed it. This was a message from Maria. Everything is agreed. He has a business meeting. Then he will come to my room at 10. Louie stared at the screen. She was also writing. The three dots next to her name told him this. Are you okay? She wrote. Well, that was a good question. Was he okay in some way? Not really. Excited but scared. Angry but excited. He eventually just sent a thumbs up emoji. She responded with a kiss. Pause, then she wrote, I need to go to dinner with colleagues. Will I call you at 9:30? 9:30, 12:30 this time. In 2.5 hours. Louis sent another thumbs up emoji. The laptop beeped at exactly 12:30 when the video call came in. Louis stopped pacing the room, sat down and pressed the button. And here she is Maria. Her face was large on the screen, her eyes sparkled. She smiled uncertainly. Hi, she said. Hi, Louis replied, as if it was just a normal conversation, nothing special. I'm a little nervous, Maria said. Is it true? Louis asked. Well, yes, she replied. I'm not used to being with anyone other than you. Louis didn't know what to say. You can handle it also sounded inappropriate. He smiled at her. You look amazing, he said. She lit up. Is it true? She took a step back from the camera so he could see her completely. She was wearing a lace-red robe, the same one she had sent him a photo of last week. But now the belt was tied. Below the hem of her robe, her legs were bare. Great, he said. There was a pause, then they both started talking at the same time. I hope. Maria began. Listen, Louis said. They both fell silent. You first, said Maria. I don't know, Louis muttered. She played with the ends of the belt, and this reminded him even more of what was about to happen. He shook his head. What did you want to say? He asked. Maria looked at him. I just wanted to say I love you, she said quietly, and that you are being great in this situation. Most husbands. She paused. Yes, Louis said dryly. Another pause. Louis began. I hope you. Be careful. Oh, of course, said Maria. She waved her hand behind her. Everything is prepared. Louis couldn't imagine a more awkward conversation in the history of sex. He desperately tried to think of what else to say. At that moment, her phone made a notification sound. She picked it up to look at. Oh my God, she said excitedly. His meeting ended early, and he wants to come right now. If I'm ready... She looked at Louis, her eyes wide. Are you ready? Louis asked. Not really, she admitted, but I think I'm as ready as I can be. She laughed nervously. Love you, he muttered. And I you, she said. She sighed, then blew him a kiss. Bye, she whispered. Bye, Louis echoed. Then the screen went dark, and there was silence. Louis immediately left the house. He needed to take a walk, feel the cold spring air in his lungs, and try to put his thoughts and feelings in order. He walked quickly, climbing the hills, trying to feel the blood pulsating in his legs so as not to think about Mary. But of course, he couldn't stop thinking. He continued to breathe in the cold air, forcing himself to focus on reality, but the thoughts that Maria was with another man at that moment did not leave him. She may have already been in bed with him. Louis finally reached the top of the hill and stopped, breathing heavily. It was cold outside. His breath was visible in the air. She will return home tomorrow. They will be together. He would go to bed with her again. No matter what was going on in the hotel room in Las Vegas, he would take her back. He must. How could Maria think that one night with Warren would be enough to get over it? From this desire, this itch that she could not scratch alone, this desire has not disappeared. It only grew stronger every day, and every time she woke up, she thought about him, imagining when she could be with him again. And today, almost 2 weeks after that night, it was about to happen again. Maria swallowed nervously as the elevator rose, her stomach churning from the movement and excitement she had been feeling all day. She looked at her reflection in the mirrored elevator doors. Why does she look so worried? Come on, smile. 2 more floors. 1. The elevator doors opened with a thud, and Maria took a deep breath as she stepped out. She couldn't wait to check the number on her phone again, but she restrained herself. She remembered the room number by heart. It had been engraved in her mind all day. She quickly looked around, checked the numbers of the nearest rooms, and headed down the corridor. An unremarkable hotel carpet, doors, each similar to the other, a corridor that seemed to have fallen asleep during the day. She found the right room and stopped in front of it. She had to knock on the door, but her knees were shaking. She wanted it so badly, but still, it was scary. A casual hookup at a conference in Las Vegas is one thing, but meeting at a hotel during business hours is a full-blown affair. She swallowed and raised her hand to knock. Footsteps were heard, and the door smoothly opened. Warren stood in front of her. Warren. His face lit up when he saw her. He was handsome, with a boyish smile and a dimple in his chin. Maria's heart performed a complex trick, accelerating and doing a somersault at the same time. Her face relaxed a little, but the smile remained. My God. Oh, damn. Hi, he said softly. His voice was pleasant, velvety, like a warm drink. Come on in. He stepped back, and she entered the room. The door closed quietly behind her. Here she is, here. The room was nicer than she expected, with a small sitting area, a sofa, and a coffee table. The bed was in another room. It was good. She relaxed a little and stole a glance at Warren. He studied her. Come in, he said again. Sit down, relax. Would you like something to drink? Guilt? Whiskey? Do you have any white wine? She asked. It will be in a minute, Warren replied, sitting down in front of the minibar and opening the refrigerator, moving the bottles around. I can't guarantee it will be the best wine in the world, but it will be cold and wet. Maria sat down on the edge of the sofa. She realized that she had been clutching her purse to herself all this time. She placed it next to her and folded her hands in her lap. Warren walked up to her, holding 2 glasses in his hands. Here you go, he said, handing her the glass. He sat down next to her, smiled, and raised his glass. Well, what about us? Let's just say, we will, Maria responded. He smiled widely. We will, he repeated. The glasses clinked, and they both took a sip. No, definitely not the best, Warren said, shaking his head. But it will do. He looked into her eyes, and Maria felt how this moment captured her. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. What could be said? Please. She looked away and then back at him. Nothing came to mind. I've been thinking about you a lot, Warren added. So many. Me too, she finally found her voice. She glanced at him. He nodded slowly. I've been thinking about you a lot too, she added hesitantly. He smiled again. Damn, he said, I'm replaying that night in my head over and over again. When you opened the door, it felt like a bomb exploded in my head. You were the most beautiful, the true embodiment of perfection I have ever seen. He laughed. You make me unbearably awkward, he said. She lowered her eyes again, her heart beating even faster. Thank you, she whispered. She heard a quiet sound as Warren placed his glass on the glass coffee table and reached out to her hand. She watched as her own hand moved forward and their fingers intertwined. Now his face was next to hers. She closed her eyes and leaned towards him for a kiss. That time in Las Vegas seemed so unreal to her that today's meeting seemed like the beginning of something new. That night in Las Vegas was crazy. As soon as Maria hung up after talking with Louie, she had no time to panic. There was immediately a knock on the door. When she opened it, the desire to complete what began last night on the roof overwhelmed her. The passionate desire overpowered any doubts. Soon they were both on the bed. Everything will be fine. More precisely, everything will be amazing. The nervous woman who had been looking at her reflection in the elevator doors a minute ago had disappeared. She now felt strong and full of life. She had been waiting for this moment since the door to the Las Vegas hotel room closed behind Warren. They had sex. She must have dozed off because she woke up alone in the bed. Warren, she said. Hey, he called from the other room. She slid off the bed and walked towards him. He sat naked in a chair, on a towel, with a phone in his hand. good dream? How long did I sleep? Not for long, he said. About 20 minutes, half an hour. She noticed that he had a glass of wine in his hand. A sip? She asked. He smiled at her and handed her the glass, then patted his thigh. Sit down, he said. She settled herself on his lap and returned the glass to him. Warren, she asked, when will you come back again? Suddenly she realized that this was the first time she had drunk from his glass. It's strange to be so close in so many ways, but at the same time, not. To the city. Yes. Next month, he said. I think the 18th. She didn't answer, just took the glass and took another sip. I know it's long, he said softly. She shrugged. He leaned forward and kissed her. Let's just enjoy the time we have now, he suggested. Louie was sitting at the kitchen table drinking beer when Maria returned home. Hello, he said when she entered. How was your day? She put her bag on the chair. It was great, she said. Would you like a beer? No, thank you. She opened the refrigerator and looked inside. Do we have a plan for dinner? Do you want to go to the cinema? I was thinking we could go to an early show and then have dinner. She didn't want to go to the cinema, but she didn't want to argue either. Of course, she said. Maybe I'll have something to eat so I don't die of hunger. She took out the yogurt and tore off the lid. Are you hungry? Terrible, she replied. There are so many things to do, he said. I'm glad you started going to the gym on the way home. He stood up and walked over to her as she stood near the refrigerator. Kiss, he asked. She swallowed a spoonful of yogurt and leaned towards him. He pressed his lips to hers. He said. Blueberry. She smiled. How smart you are, she teased him. And, he sniffed, new shampoo. She took another spoonful of yogurt. Finished up at the gym, she said. I had to borrow it from one of the women. Hotel shampoo. Why did she lie to him? He knew about Vegas and more or less reluctantly agreed with the idea, probably because he simply had no other choice. But after that, he never asked her a single question, as if nothing had happened. And what she's doing now? Well, he definitely didn't give his consent to that. What do you want to see? He asked. What's in the cinema? At the cinema, she realized that she had made a tactical mistake by not insisting on a comic book movie. The romantic comedy that Louie had chosen was full of awkward situations and misunderstandings that never amused her. The on-screen couple would, of course, work things out and end up in bed after 80 minutes of awkward courtship, but she was completely indifferent and intolerable to it. She closed her eyes and remembered, Warren, but this should have been enough for her for another month. Maria sighed and looked at Louie. He seemed to be engrossed in watching the movie. She closed her eyes again, falling back into the memories. She opened her eyes. The beautiful people on the screen still did not understand each other. She could tell by their frowning faces. She sighed quietly. Dinner was better. After steak and fries and a glass of red wine, Maria was able to listen to Louie talk about his day. She still had little flashes of memory, like when he talked about how their friends had bought a house on the Cape, and her imagination immediately pictured the black and red bullfighter's cloak. Or when he talked about fluctuations in the market, her thoughts would return to the time she and Warren had sex. She smiled at him, and he took her hand. Louie, he was such a good man, and she shouldn't have to do this sit with him at dinner and think about her day in bed with another man. That woman over there, Louie said, is dressed like a bullfighter. She has a cloak and one of those hats they wear. She turned to look. It was Yvonne from the sales department, and she was wearing that same black hat with red pom-poms around the edge, and in that same red necklace with a pearl, and in that same bullfighter's cloak. Yvonne, who worked with Warren. I worked closely with him. Maria barely suppressed an attack of panic. It must be a coincidence. Probably all sites with fetish costumes now have discounts on sexy bullfighter costumes. Nonsense, said the voice in her head. She works with me, she said in a distant voice. Do you know her well? I just say hello to her in the corridor. Yvonne was with a crowd of girls, all of them talking and laughing. The hostess led them to another room. Maria smiled at Louie. "I'll be right back," she said and headed to the women's restroom. She wasn't going to cry. If she cries, her eyes will turn red. If she walked into the stall, she would start crying, so she just stood there, looking at herself in the mirror. Stupid, she told herself. Steak and wine boiled inside her. She was a cauldron of shame and rage. How could he? With Yvonne right after her. But maybe it's just a coincidence. The toilet door opened. It was Yvonne, all dressed up as a bullfighter. Maria noticed that she was also wearing the gloves that came with the kit. "What a cute outfit," said Maria. "Really. Funny and original." Yvonne smiled. "Thank you," she said. Then, after a pause, "You look beautiful today too, Maria." She disappeared into the booth, the door slamming shut behind her. Stupid cow, Maria thought. Louie was in a romantic mood. Maria knew it from the way he hugged her as they walked through the parking lot. When they got to the car, she kissed him quickly, but he leaned in and kissed her longer. "I like your boots," he whispered. "New. Boots again?" Maria laughed. "Yes," she said. "Glad you like them," said Louis, sexual. He let her go, and they got into the car. While they were driving home, her hand was in Louis's. Maria tried to focus on what was happening here and now with him. It was her husband, and she was cheating on him. The feeling of guilt made the steak and wine bubble inside her again. But on top of the guilt, there were so many other, conflicting emotions. But on top of the guilt, there were so many other, confusing emotions. At first, there was humiliation and rage when she remembered Yvonne in her bullfighter costume. And then there was anger, yes, anger, at Louis for simply going along with her crazy idea of one-time sex with Warren. What kind of man would do that? Just say, "Okay, honey," when his wife says she has a plan to sleep with another man. But it wasn't fair. She backed him into a corner, essentially saying, "I'll do it anyway." But why didn't he say anything after she returned? Why didn't you make a scene? Why didn't he make her promise that it wouldn't happen again? Didn't call her a woman of easy virtue? Shouldn't he have had at least some reaction, damn it? And underneath all these emotions, like a pulsating electric bass, desire beat. Hunger for more. To more Warren. Sometimes this desire was so strong that she could barely breathe, let alone think about anything else. Maria closed her eyes, remembering Vegas. There's a knock on her hotel room door. She stood for a moment, her hand on the handle, with all her nerves tense to the limit, and then threw open the door. Warren's face is eager and excited, and his eyes widen when he sees her. And now he was already in the room, they were kissing. Maria sighed. Louis's fingers moved in her palm. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. Her eyes opened. "Oh," she said, "nothing specific. It's just nice to be here, together." "Yes," he agreed. He glanced at her. "It's nice to be together." She smiled at him. "Yes," she said. She was at home for almost 2 weeks. Didn't he notice that she had changed? She definitely felt it. She had to make an effort not to yell at Louis about his little habits. The cat food bowl soaking in the kitchen sink, or the hairs strewn on the sink after trimming his eyebrows. When he touched her, or when she touched him, when she felt him aroused next to her in bed, didn't he understand that at that very moment she was completely immersed in thoughts of another man? Apparently not. Perhaps he believed that stupid myth, that advertising slogan that people love to repeat. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But this is not true at all. Not at all like that. Maria grabbed his hand with her other hand, holding it with both. The car turned a corner, then another, and soon they were approaching their house. The garage door opened, and they drove inside. House. While Louis was brushing his teeth, Maria undressed. Louis wanted to make love, and in a strange way, she wanted it too. It was not the same passionate desire that she experienced during the day, but it was still pleasant. Very nice. She took off her boots, then pulled her dress over her head and hung it up, then unclasped her bra and put it in the dresser. She took off her panties and threw them into the laundry basket. When the toilet flushed, she was already completely naked and lying under the blanket. The bathroom door opened and Louis came out. Seeing Maria naked in bed, Her bare shoulders peeking out from under the blanket, he smiled. "Hello, sexy lady," he said. He began to unbutton his shirt. Maria batted her eyelashes. "Is this for me, dear sir?" she asked. Said Louie. "How many other sexy ladies do you see here?" Maria looked left and right. "It seems we are alone here," she agreed. His shirt was already off. He looked really good, muscular shoulders, chest with a nice taper to the waist. Maria smiled at him. He pulled down his pants and stayed in his boxers. "Aren't you cold?" asked Maria. "Actually," he said, "I'm quite hot." He smiled and walked over to the bed. They made love. Later, much later, Maria lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, which she could no longer see, and listened to Louie's steady breathing. She thought about Warren. Every minute that passed brought her closer to the moment when he would return next month, and they could be together again. She sighed. There's still a month left. And then, oddly enough, the image of Yvonne in a bullfighter costume, laughing with her friends, again appeared before her eyes. She frowned. It's better not to attach much importance to this. Could Warren be asked about this? She stole a glance at Louie. As usual, Roger the cat was curled up on his chest. How could he even sleep with such a weight on him? She reached over to the nightstand for her phone to check the time, and her heart sank. There was a message on the phone from Warren, sent 20 minutes ago. There was only one word. "Are you awake?" Maria checked the phone and made sure it was on silent mode, so she didn't hear the ringing. She stared at the screen, then turned on her side so the light from the phone wouldn't shine on Louie. She quickly typed, "Yes," and then pressed send. Maybe he has already fallen asleep. But to her surprise, small circles appeared on the screen. This meant that he was writing something. A moment later, a message came. "Do you want to talk?" She looked back at Louie, who was still sleeping peacefully with the cat on his chest. She took a deep breath and wrote, "Give me 2 minutes, I'll call." Her finger hovered over the send button. It definitely wasn't smart. She shouldn't have done this, call her lover, yes, lover, while her husband was sleeping next to her in their shared marital bed. Maria felt both sick and worried. Her heart was pounding and her hands were shaking, but she had a wide smile on her face. She took one last look at Roger and Louie, then, without putting on her slippers, she quietly left the bedroom, trying not to make any noise. The door was open so Roger could come and go, and Maria slipped quietly into the hallway and then down the stairs to the first floor. The furthest room from the stairs was Louie's office, and there was a door that locked. She made her way into the office and closed the door behind her. After standing for a while, she went to the window and lowered the blinds. In the office, there was a large, comfortable chair in front of a desk. Maria sat down in it, the leather upholstery creaking under her weight, and she tucked her legs under her. She unlocked the phone and looked at the correspondence. Same short messages. She told herself that nothing obliges her to call. She could still change her mind, but no one listened to her, especially Maria herself. Her heart pounding in her throat again, she opened her calling app and pressed Warren's number. He answered on the second ring. "Hello," he said, and a smile appeared on Maria's face again. "Hello," she answered quietly. She suddenly felt like she was back at school, trying to start a conversation with the cute guy at the next locker. "How are you?" "Fine," he replied. He fell silent for a moment. "I was thinking about you," he added. "Yes?" Maria's heart was beating so hard that it seemed to her that it was about to jump out of her chest, and she could not stop smiling widely. "It's nice." "Yes," he agreed. "Pleasant thoughts." Maria swallowed. "You know what?" she asked. "What?" "I thought about you two." He laughed. "We seem to be on the same page," he said. "What were you thinking?" She hesitated a little. "About today," she admitted. "Me too," Warren said. "To be honest, I couldn't think about anything else all evening." Maria closed her eyes. "I know," she said. "It's like that for me too." "How could this be?" Warren fell silent. "We've known each other for a long time." "Yes. What if?" He clicked his tongue. "Like fireworks." "God," said Maria. "I know. I need to see you again. Warren said desperately. I just need it. Maria swallowed. Next month, she asked. I'll arrive earlier, he said. In a week. I didn't plan it, but something has changed. Yes, she answered with a feigned mystery. Something I can't resolve via email. Can't someone else do this for you? She teased. He laughed. No, he said. This is not something I would like to delegate. It's important to be able to delegate, Maria insisted. All management courses talk about this. There are things you have to do yourself if you want them done properly. Yes, said Maria, and some things need to be done perfectly. I'm glad you understand, Warren said. He fell silent. So what do you think? About what? Maria almost giggled. About our meeting, when I arrive in a week. Oh, that's what we were talking about. Maria was feignedly surprised. You're teasing. You'll have to check your calendar, Maria said. Maybe you can send me an invitation to a meeting so that I can book a time for you. You, he exclaimed. He laughed. And what should I write in the invitation? Exploring opportunities, said Maria. I like it. I thought you'd like it, Warren said. God, he said. I wish I could be there with you. Yes, Maria whispered. I want this too. Do you remember Vegas? Warren asked excitedly. God, when you opened the door, it was, oh my God, like a vision, like a sexy dream. Maria smiled to herself. They had sex over the phone. Suddenly, Maria heard the toilet flush. Oh, damn, I need to go, she said quickly. Husband. Oh, no, Warren muttered. But Maria had already picked up the phone and turned off the speakerphone. I'll contact you later, she whispered. She quickly turned off the call and turned off the screen. The upstairs toilet was still making noise. She carefully opened the office door and walked out. Everything was quiet. Maria, Louie's voice came from the top of the stairs. I'm here, she responded. She walked to the foot of the stairs. What's happened? I woke up, he said. And you weren't there. Everything is fine. Yes, she answered. I just couldn't sleep, so I went downstairs to read. Oh, he sounded sleepy. In the dark? On the phone, she explained. I read it from my phone. Oh, I see, he said. Are you going back to bed? I'll come now, she promised. Fine. She heard his footsteps and then the creaking of the bed as he lay down again. Quietly, on tiptoe, Maria returned to Louis's office, turning on the flashlight on her phone to make sure everything was in place. Is everything in place? Another quick inspection with a flashlight, and lo and behold, not so fast. The shadow under the table turned out to be her panties. In the morning, it would be difficult to explain where they came from. Maria giggled nervously and picked up her panties. One leg, then the other. She almost lost her balance and had to lean on a chair. This is just crazy, she thought. Absolutely fucking crazy. She left the office again and went up the stairs. The house was quiet. Louie was already in bed and asleep again. Roger the cat was nowhere to be seen. Maria slid under the covers and looked at Louie, listening to his breathing. Gradually, her heart began to calm down, and she was able to relax a little. Maria, she thought, you've gone completely crazy. To some extent, this thought made her feel better, as if awareness of the problem could help solve it. Here you are, with a perfectly good husband who loves you, and you want to ruin everything by having phone sex in the middle of the night with a man you barely know. The little imp in her head intervened again. Well, how do you mean? I almost don't know. We got to know each other very intimately, and it was amazing. Ha ha. What's wrong with her? Nothing. She just wanted what everyone else wanted what she wanted. Roger suddenly jumped onto the bed again and lay down between her and Louie, smelling like tuna. He looked at her with a dissatisfied look, then settled back on Louie's chest. Louie's breathing faltered briefly, but soon he was breathing smoothly again. Maria turned on her side and pulled the blanket over her shoulder. 2 weeks, she thought. Warren will be back in a week. The next 2 weeks passed with terrible slowness. Maria reluctantly wrote to Warren that she would not be able to receive calls from him in the middle of the night. This time everything worked out, but she didn't want to risk it. He understood her. To be honest, she was even a little disappointed at how easily he took her decision. Wouldn't a truly passionate lover offer some way out of a situation with an inconvenient husband? It wasn't like she was going to put sleeping pills in Louie Coco before bed, but still, it made me think. And some insidious fate continued to pit her against Yvonne at work. In the cafeteria, in the hallway, in the women's room, and once in one terrible 2-hour marketing meeting. Maria had to keep a serene smile on her face while Yvonne made her stupid proposals, and all the while she couldn't stop thinking about how Warren could have spent the night with this woman. Or couldn't. Perhaps this is all just a mistake. Would anyone, even someone as stupid as Yvonne, wear the same outfit she just had sex in to dinner at a restaurant? But on the other hand, would anyone really show up to dinner in a sexy bullfighter costume, no matter who gave it to them or under what circumstances? Maria had to nod and smile, once again explaining why the budget could not be exceeded. This woman was so stupid that Maria wanted to scream. She counted down the days until Warren returned. Another week, 2 more days, tomorrow. That morning Maria was on edge, waiting for his message with the room number and meeting time. She nervously tapped her fingers on the table, hating the unknown and herself for not being able to remain calm. Finally, the phone beeped. Maria forced herself to slowly take it out of her purse and unlock it. 702, the message said. 3:30. A second passed and another message arrived. I can't wait. Okay, she wrote back. Me too. She put the phone away and stood up. She was overcome with excitement and relief. They will see each other again. She couldn't wait the time until 3:30 would drag on forever, and their meeting would be too short. But she will see him. Maria wandered through the corridors of the office, unable to concentrate. It was only 11 o'clock. She turned a corner and almost collided with someone. It was Yvonne. Well, of course, she was everywhere. Oh, sorry, Yvonne said with a smile. It's okay, Maria answered. And really, today she didn't care. She answered Yvonne with a kind smile. Don't worry. Maria checked her watch. 3:35. Being 5 minutes late was just on time. She knocked on the door, her heart pounding. The door opened and Warren stood in the doorway, naked. He took a step back, pulling her into the room. The door closed quietly behind them. Wow, he said. She smiled and put a finger to his lips. I'll be right back, she whispered. I have a surprise for you. In the bathroom, she took off her dress and bra, took off her shoes and panties. Then she took a metal thing out of her bag. It was a backless top made from small silver rings that she found on the internet. She tied it around her neck and waist and looked at herself in the mirror. He will definitely like this, she thought with a smile. She looked into her bag again and pulled out a pair of sandals. She sat down and tied the long leather straps that went around her calves. Finally, she put on mirrored sunglasses. She looked at herself in the mirror again, enjoying the many reflections, then turned off the light and returned to the bedroom. He turned off the light and lit the candles. He was lying on the bed. Oh my God, he said when he saw her. She smiled and put her hands on her hips. Her top sparkled in the candlelight. Do you like it? She whispered. Come here, he said. And they once again had sex. She lay on the bed, listening to him splash in the bathroom. She wondered what time it was. His phone was on the nightstand. She took it mechanically and froze. A message was visible on the screen. It was from Yvonne. I can't wait for tonight, it said. The toilet flushed, and she hurriedly put the phone back. He returned to the bedroom. Wow, he said. It was amazing. He went back to bed. Warren, she said. I forgot to say, she said, I can stay the night. My husband is in Denver today. It was a lie, of course, but one that would not be difficult to correct. His hands stopped moving. Tonight? He asked. Isn't this great? She said. Sorry, he said. I wish I knew. I'm having dinner with Frank. He'll tell me about the marketing campaign for the next quarter. Oh, she said. Can't meet him tomorrow? I'm only in town until tomorrow, he said, and I have everything planned until I leave. There was a pause. I can wait here for you, she suggested. And after you're done with Frank. These dinners with Frank usually go late into the night, he said ruefully. Dinner is just a euphemism for going to bars. She didn't answer. Sorry, he said quietly again. It's no big deal, she said. I'll be right back, she whispered. In the bathroom, Maria looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes looked tired and sad, so she put her sunglasses back on. It was a really nice effect, she thought. A metallic top and mirrored glasses. She combed her hair, then took out her phone and took a selfie. She knew what he would say if she got angry. Who is she to talk about fidelity? At least he wasn't married. But she was angry. Very, very angry. She took off her top and put it back in her bag, then bent down and untied her sandals. She straightened up and got dressed, putting on her bra and panties, then her shoes and the dress she'd worn. She left the glasses on. She picked up her phone again and began writing an email to Yvonne. She attached a screenshot of the conversation with Warren with the room number and time, as well as the message, "I can't wait." She left the body of the letter blank, thinking about the topic. He's a busy boy. I hope I didn't tire him too much. She rejected these options and simply titled the letter Warren. She looked at the selfie she had taken a minute ago. There was something medieval and warlike about him. Her top and glasses shone like chainmail, and her visor, her jaw set in a hard, straight line. She could have attached it to the letter. It would be retribution for the pain she felt when she saw Yvonne in the bullfighter's hat in the restaurant, for all the ugliness she felt all this time. It would be awkward if Yvonne sent the letter to someone else, but for some reason Maria thought that wouldn't happen. She attached the photo, hit send, and went back to the bedroom. Warren looked at her dressed in surprise. "Are you leaving?" he asked. "But—" "Yes," she said. "Are you mad about Frank?" he asked. "Because I'm so sorry." "No," she told him. "I just feel like there's a storm coming, and I don't want to be in the middle of it." He stared at her. "Storm?" he asked with disbelief. "Where did you hear?" But at that moment, his phone rang. "Here he is," she said. She pressed the elevator call button and waited. She'll have to stop at the gym on the way home to take a shower. In fact, training would also be beneficial. The elevator doors opened and she entered. Sending the letter was satisfying, but she was still seething inside. She pressed the L button and the doors closed. She felt her stomach tighten as the elevator slowly moved down. She will need to set up her phone to block his calls and messages. This couldn't go on, and she needed to end it. The elevator door clanged open, and she stepped out into the lobby. She knew the nights would be hard. The rage and shame would keep her awake for hours, and even when she fell asleep, her body would tease her with vivid dreams of him. Then work emails would arrive reminding him that Warren would be in town again next month, next week, Tuesday, and if you needed to see him, make an appointment. And there will be Yvonne in the hallways and in meetings, no longer pretending to be nice. In the lobby, near the exit, there was a large trash can-like bin. Maria walked past, then stopped and returned. The bag containing the top and sandals fell to the bottom of the trash can with a thud and clang. It's time to move on. The door to Maria's office cracked slightly as it slid along the rails. She looked up from the table. Warren stood in the doorway. She looked at him calmly. She did this the entire time he was in town, giving him level-headed glances, making it clear that he was nothing more than a colleague to her. Her palms were sweaty, and there was a tight knot in her stomach, but her level glances said everything she wanted to say. "Hi," Warren said. He smiled friendlily. "Do you have a minute?" "Of course," Maria answered. Her voice sounded a little cold, so she forced herself to smile. Warren walked in and closed the glass door behind him. "Oh God," Maria thought. He closed the door. Now there will be a conversation. Warren sat down in one of the visitors' chairs and leaned forward. "Listen," he began quietly. "I'm sorry for invading your space so suddenly, but you don't answer my calls or messages." Maria looked at him. "No emotion," she told herself. "Don't show anything." "Yes," she said. Her voice sounded a little stiff, but that was okay. Warren looked at her intently. "Maria," he said. There was a tremble in his voice. He swallowed. "Listen," he repeated. "I'm so sorry for what happened." Of course, she thought. It's a pity that I got caught. She didn't say anything, just continued to look at him, waiting. "It was a terrible mistake," he continued. "To be honest, I already planned to end everything with Yvonne. It wasn't something. Oh, damn." He slouched in his chair and stared at the floor. Maria paused. "Poor Yvonne," she finally said. Her voice still sounded prim, but now with a hint of mockery. Warren glanced at her quickly. "Are you friends with her?" he asked. "Not at all," Maria answered. "But I can still feel sorry for her." He looked at her. "Give me one more chance," he said. Maria shook her head. "You need to leave," she told him. "Do you remember? How was it? How incredible was that?" Of course, he talked about sex. Of course, she remembered. His eyes burned as he looked at her. "Warren," she said. She looked away and then looked back at him. "What I told you on that rooftop in Vegas was true. I am a happily married woman. The problem is that I forgot about it for a while. I'm sorry." "Maria," he said again, "please." Maria stood up and walked to the door. She moved it to the side and stood looking down at him. He chuckled slightly, then stood up. "Got it," he said. He left the office, and she closed the door and watched him walk down the corridor. She sat down at the table again, feeling completely empty. How could Warren evoke such a complex range of emotions in her? She hated him for the humiliation and guilt he put her through. She desperately wanted to go back to bed with him. She never wanted to see or hear him again. She wanted to spend every remaining moment of her life with him, and for both to be naked. Last night at the bar was pure torture. Perhaps she should have come up with some excuse not to go. But what's even more unpleasant, she wanted to go there herself, wanted to sit opposite Warren, wanted to enjoy his gaze on her. One day she met his gaze, and what she saw satisfied her so much that she almost laughed. Of course, this look also turned everything inside. "I want him" collided with "fuck him," and she was left breathless. She raised one eyebrow and then looked away, her heart pounding. Maria sighed. Sometimes everything was very difficult. But couldn't she handle it? She had a husband who loved her, and whom she loved too. And Warren will leave on Thursday back to Chicago. She just needs to hold out for a few more days. It's hard, but it's also adulthood to not give in to every impulse that goes through your head. She could do it. She glanced at her watch. It would be nice to go home to Louie, but she still had a few hours before that. As if on cue, her phone rang. It was Louie. She smiled and turned in her chair, facing away from the glass door. "Hey, sexy," she said. Louie laughed. "You're the sexy one," he said. "Or do you always answer calls like this?" "Well, you know," she said, "only to advertisers and unknown numbers." "Huh," Louie replied. After a pause, he added, "Seriously, you're the sexiest." Maria laughed. She glanced over her shoulder to make sure the door was completely closed. "You're terrible," she told him. "It's not me," Louie insisted. "This is my phone. He's a horny bastard." Maria clicked her tongue. "You encourage him," she said. "All these videos that you watch on it." "No video," Louie said. "Only nude photos of one special lady." Said Maria. "Well, as you say." "We can take more photos," Louie suggested. "Let's try to overheat this bastard." "Maybe," Maria said. "No faces," Louie said. "Nothing to tell." Said Maria. "Yes, maybe." There was another pause. "I was thinking about you," Louie said, "in your red robe." Maria smiled. "Have you thought about me? I can't wait for the evening." "About? What will happen then?" I thought. "God, let's just go home and get on with it." "Now?" "Yes, now. Tell them you have a dentist appointment or something." Maria smiled so widely that her cheeks hurt. "Perhaps it would be good for you to wait a little," she said. "You learn discipline." "Oh God," Louie moaned. "I'm about to burst." There was a knock on the door. Maria looked over her shoulder and raised her hand. "Oh, my love," she said. "I need to go." Will you save everything for the evening? Of course, Louie said. I can grab something to eat on the way home. Thai food? Sounds great, Maria said. Something spicy, right? Is this what you're thinking? Spicy dishes, Louis confirmed. He kissed the phone. Love you. I love you too. She put the phone down and returned it to the table. She felt much better just hearing Louis' voice. And the evening? Yes, the evening promised to be pleasant. Maria licked her lips, then turned and made a hand sign through the glass door. Roger met her at the front door, meowing and rubbing against her legs. She turned on the hallway light and leaned over to pet him. No trace of your master, huh? She said. And he really wanted to return home as soon as possible. Roger rushed towards the kitchen, then stopped and looked back to check if she was following him. Just a second, Furry, she said. She took out her phone, but there were no messages from Louis. Shrugging her shoulders, she headed towards the kitchen. Usually he was ahead of her, but maybe gathering food took longer. While she was putting food in Roger's bowl, she heard a car drive up to the house. Quickly placing the bowl on the floor for Happy Roger, she rinsed her fingers. She heard Louis coming up the steps and wiped her hands. The front door opened. Hi, Louis called. He entered the kitchen and stood in the doorway, looking at her. Hello, he repeated, but this time more slowly and softly. She smiled at him. And here you are, she said. She sniffed. And here's dinner too. He placed the plastic bag on the table and walked over to her. He said, his lips touching hers. Maybe dinner can wait? He asked. No, she answered. I think we'll have more fun if our stomachs don't growl. Fair enough, Louis agreed. He walked away and began to empty the containers from the bag. Then Maria noticed another package on the table. What is this? She asked. Louis took it from the table and placed it on the counter. This is a surprise, he said. For later. This is the reason I stayed late. Dessert? Asked Maria. Louis grinned. Sort of, he replied. He opened the containers and placed 2 plates on the table. Shall we get some beer? They ate in silence. A couple of times Maria glanced at the package on the counter. It wasn't dessert. Louis wouldn't make such an emphasis on that. Okay, so something for the bedroom. She was partly intrigued, partly nervous. What if it's something she doesn't want, but he does? They weren't usually into toys. Louis put down his fork and leaned towards her. Hey, he said quietly. Maria batted her eyelashes as she looked at him. Hey, she replied. Is your tummy happy? He asked. For now, she said, smiling at him. Are you ready for the next course? He said. He kissed her and put his hand on her cheek. Give me a couple of minutes, she whispered. Then come upstairs. Don't take off your clothes, Louis said. She raised an eyebrow. No, I'll be there soon, he promised. She smiled and kissed him. Okay, she said quietly. She went upstairs to the bathroom, then to the bedroom, closed the curtains, then lit the candles and turned off the lights. She heard Louis downstairs talking to Roger and clearing the table. She took off her shoes and jewelry, then sat on the bed. After a moment, she stood up again and closed the bedroom door. Just in time. She heard Louis coming up the stairs. She suppressed a nervous laugh and returned to the bed. There was a light knock on the door. Maria froze for a moment and then asked, Who's there? Your dream lover, Louis answered through the door. Maria almost giggled, but still stood up and walked to the door. Hello, she said. I was waiting for you. Louis's arms wrapped around her. Where have you been all this time? Maria whispered. Lover from the world of dreams. In response, Louis took her hand and led her to the bed. He sat her down and leaned in to kiss her again. Close your eyes, he whispered. Maria almost laughed again, but she didn't want to spoil the surprise Louis had prepared. Obediently, she closed her eyes and sat down, waiting. She heard the rustling of the bag and then felt something on her face. Louis? She asked. It's just a blindfold, he whispered. She felt him tie her shoelaces behind her head. She didn't really like being blindfolded. She opened her eyes, but saw nothing. Louis, she said again, with a hint of worry in her voice. It's okay, he said in her ear. I'm here. Maria swallowed. Just a bandage, she said. No. She faltered, not even knowing how to formulate what exactly she didn't want. Ropes or handcuffs. Only a bandage, Louie confirmed. His lips touched her ear again. You can take it off if you want. But it can be fun. Maria thought about this. Well, maybe. You can try, even if it's more his thing than hers. She smiled. You better kiss me, she whispered. Mysterious lover from the world of dreams. Louie, she said. Who is Louie? He asked, laughing quietly. I'm your lover from the world of dreams, remember? They made love. He kissed her again. Maria. Maria looked at him. What? You said his name. Louie paused. Warren's name, I mean. Maria was silent for a moment. Is it true? She finally asked quietly. Yes, Louie replied. He ran his hand over her cheek. Had she really screamed Warren's name in a fit of passion? It must be so. Louie wouldn't come up with something like that. God, what a horror. She looked at Louie. Sorry, she said. Louie nodded. His lips curled a little. You know, he said, but then fell silent. What? She asked. In Vegas. He began slowly. What? She asked quickly. I wasn't sure, Louie said carefully, whether it was fantasy or reality. Maria didn't answer. That night, Louie continued, when you called me and said Warren was going to come to your room. He stopped. Did this really happen? Or was it just a fantasy? This is it, Maria thought. She had been waiting for this, a confrontation that would destroy her marriage. She looked at Louie, trying to find the right words. It was a pity that the room was so dark. She would have liked to see his face better, to look into his eyes. Yes, Maria finally said. This really happened. It really happened, she repeated. She paused. I'm very sorry, she added. There was a long pause. I think I knew, Louie said. Another pause. You didn't say anything, Maria said. Well, yes, Louie agreed. I didn't know how to feel about it. I probably didn't want to give it more importance than I should have. More meaning, Maria asked in surprise, suddenly feeling anger rising in her. Do you think it doesn't matter? Of course it matters, Louie said quickly. Look, it was obvious that you were. In a strong emotional state. You practically told me that no matter what I said, you would still sleep with him. Maria didn't answer. It was true, she really didn't leave him much room to argue. But did he try to stop her? She could no longer remember everything that happened then. Did she tell him that she was going to sleep with Warren, despite his opinion? I think, Louie said slowly, it was an unforgettable night. Maria glanced at him quickly. He looked at her thoughtfully. I'm really sorry, she said again. Louie shrugged. It was stupid and selfish, she added, wiping her eyes. She suddenly realized that they were wet. God, how I wish this didn't happen. Louie kissed her shoulder. Don't cry, he said softly. But I hurt you, Maria said. Oh, Louie, how could I do this? Now he hugged her, kissed her, whispered her name. I love you, he said quietly. Maria sobbed. How can you love me? She demanded. After what I did? Louie stroked her hair. You're still the same, he said. The same Maria I always loved. Maria didn't answer. She didn't feel the same. She felt as if something had fundamentally changed inside her, as if she was no longer the person she had always thought she was. That other Mary was. What's the word? Obedient sounded sad. Reliable. That's not it either. Faithful. Yes, it was better. Louie kissed her shoulder again. I really love you, he insisted. His embrace was so warm, his face tickling her cheek, but it wasn't unpleasant. On the contrary, she felt comforted in it. It all helped her to be here in the present, enjoying the moment with Louie instead of thinking about Warren. She turned to Louie and kissed him, her lips touching his. He pulled back and looked at her. So, he said. So, she asked again. Do you want to tell me about this? Maria froze. Tell me about it, she asked again. About this, Louie repeated. He paused. About that night. In Vegas. No, Maria said immediately. Louie looked at her. No, he asked again. I? Maria met his gaze. Do you really want to? Hear this? Louis kissed her again. If you want to tell, he said softly. Maria didn't answer. He kissed her again. I have a confession to make, Louis said. I think about this often. Maria swallowed. Are you thinking about this? She asked, barely audibly. About that call, Louis said. About how I saw you in your red robe. I kept wondering, Louis continued. What was under the robe? Maria kissed him. Her hand slid to his neck. Red panties, she whispered. He muttered. And then what happened? Maria was silent for a while. Let's just make love, she whispered. What happened next? He whispered again. When did you open the door? Maria looked at him. We kissed, she finally whispered. They made love again. Maria smiled. Nice, she asked playfully. Hell yes, he said. He smiled. What about you? No complaints, she replied. She kissed him on the tip of his nose. I'll be right back, she said. I need to go to the toilet. But when Maria returned to bed, Louis was already asleep. She stood there for a moment, looking at him, then went back to the bathroom. A shower would be nice. The warm water really felt good on her body. She stood with her eyes closed and slowly twirled under the stream. Long showers have always been her secret weakness. Of course, now this was just one of her secret pleasures. She lathered and rinsed off twice, and then just stood there, enjoying the pressure and warmth of the water running down her skin. She admitted to Louis that she actually slept with Warren. She even made the typical mistake of saying his name while having sex with her husband, thereby confirming that Warren was not only on her mind, but especially on her mind when it came to sex. And Louis was okay with that. More than just okay. She knew he liked to think of it as fantasy, but it turned out that talking about reality was even better. The hotel room scene. Yeah, that was fun to remember. And the way Louis all this time remembered and fantasized about a meeting on the roof that never happened. Maria smiled to herself. She turned off the water and stood there for a moment, wet, then reached for a towel. Everything in the room was paired. She dried herself off and quickly walked out, standing on the footmat. Maybe this will work. She could continue to think about Warren and share those thoughts with Louis, and it would be enjoyable for both of them. There is no need to go into detail that she met Warren again after that, and had incredible sex with him in hotel rooms. Those details aren't necessary, especially since she's not going to do it again. She used the corner of the towel to wipe the fogged mirror. Standing there, naked, looking in the mirror, she suddenly remembered doing the same thing in Warren's room on that terrible day when it was all over. Her lips curled at the thought. But everything was fine. She was here with Louis. They had just had amazing sex, and she didn't need Warren except in memory and for further fantasies to rekindle the passion with her husband. She finished drying herself and returned to the bedroom. Louis snored lightly. God, it was so cold. She slid under the covers. Maybe I should have worn a nightgown. But lying naked in the cool sheets was fun, and soon she would be warmed by the warmth of Louis' body. She still didn't feel tired. Tomorrow she will definitely be tired, that's for sure. She took the phone from the nightstand. Maybe watch videos of cute animals. She had a new message. She mechanically pressed the envelope icon, then froze. The message was from Warren. He, of course, continued to write letters to her, but she deleted all his messages without reading them. Her finger hovered over the trash can icon. The subject line of the letter was, "Miss you a lot." God, she's not going to get into this again, right? But her finger didn't press the delete icon. Maria bit her lip, then glanced at Louis. He was still sleeping. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, then opened them again. Her finger pressed, but not on the basket. The message opened, and she began to read. Maria read the letter with her heart pounding, not knowing what to expect. At the beginning of the message, Warren wrote that he had been thinking about her every minute since they said goodbye. He described memories of every detail, how she looked that day, how her hair glowed in the rays of the setting sun. I can't forget it, he wrote. With every new meeting, I become even more dependent. I thought I could stop, but I can't. I don't know how to deal with this. You are like an addiction." Maria bit her lip, feeling a familiar, dangerous warmth rising inside her. She closed her eyes, remembering his touch, the way he looked at her. But then her gaze fell on Louie, who was sleeping next to her, so quietly and peacefully, completely unaware of what storms were raging in her soul. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should I respond to Warren, continue this relationship, which has already begun to destroy her life and marriage, or finally put an end to all this to regain peace and stability? She took a deep breath, trying to piece her thoughts together. She needed to make a choice. And at that moment, like a thunderclap, the understanding came. Every time she gave herself to Warren, she was taking away something important from herself. She took away her loyalty, her honesty, her essence. Maria slowly typed in the answer. "Warren, this has to end. You gave me memories that will stay with me forever, but I can't go on anymore. I chose Louie. He is my life, my home, and I cannot and do not want to lose him. I hope you understand." The seconds before hitting send felt like an eternity, but she knew it was right. Wiping away a tear, Maria pressed the button, and the letter went away. She turned off the phone and put it on the nightstand, turning to Louie. His breathing was so even, so calm. She felt the warmth from his body and suddenly realized this was not the end. It was a new start. Maria snuggled closer to Louie, closed her eyes, and finally allowed herself to relax. She made a choice that she hoped would bring her both peace and love. She didn't know what would happen next, but now, for the first time in a long time, she was ready to face it with confidence. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.